It's day 5 of Global Chess League 2025, and I immediately start by taking a look at the gameplay between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Alireza Firouzja. Maxime plays for Upgrade Mamba Masters, while Alireza represents Triveni Kings. If I'm not mistaken, their name is just too long. So, Alireza, who is 4-4, I mean, I don't know who can beat this man, and again, let's see what happened in this insane game. So Sicilian defense, and we have knight d4 takes, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6. So what's interesting about this is that Maxime himself is a huge expert of knight d4 setups, and he plays against Alireza. I mean, I kind of see Alireza play Sicilian from time to time, and I think, but I mean, he can play whatever he wants. He plays e5, he plays c5. I mean, yeah, considering how sharp he plays, Sicilian suits him well, and yeah, I mean, Maxime is an expert, so you gotta show your knowledge against him as well. So we have a6. So the main, let's say, move that Anish suggests in his course is to play 5. e6 is, let's say, I mean, it is still a reliable option, but I think it gives white more flexibility in terms of like potential g4, g5 ideas, while after e5, bishop e7, I don't think there's as much. So e6, bishop goes to e3, king c7, a4, bishop e7, castle, knight c6, knight goes to b3, and now b6. Building so-called hedgehog system, so bishop b7. What I don't like about these positions, let's say why I don't play them with the black myself, is that because, I mean, b6 pawn and many lines might become weak, so I would prefer to actually leave the pawn maybe on b7 for now, but the problem is a5 might be a problem, and which Alireza probably didn't like. That's why b6 is played. f4, castle, bishop f3, rook b8, just to avoid any pins, and now g4. As I said, there is more flexibility in these lines for white pieces. Knight a5, knight goes back to d7. Yes, the position is a bit passive for black, but now after b5, and that's one of the main ideas in Sicilian defense, also d5 plan, but b5, and now, okay, you have b4 plans, you can go knight c4 next, try to trade pieces, because white have a lot of space, so you gotta maybe take some pieces off the board. Bishop e2, pawn goes to b4, knight d5, king goes to d8, knight f3, knight c5. Computer thinks it's a mistake due to knight d6, and basically you use the overload of this knight on e5, so e5, bishop e7, queen d8, and now the problem is rook d8, rook a5, bishop d8, bishop c5. So, and white take the piece back, but e5 was played immediately, and after d5, Alireza is no longer worse. Knight d4 was played, bishop d7, b3, knight b7. Yes, again, you might see that Alireza is in a bit passive spot, but again, yes, knight on b7 is terrible, but at the same time, like at some point, knight potentially goes to e4, you open the diagonals, you go knight c5, you potentially try to use the weakness of c2 pawn, because pawn on b4 is a huge blocker. So rook a8, bishop goes to f3, takes, knight goes back to a5, knight goes to c6, trying to trade, king g2, queen c7, knight e2, knight a7, and knight now jumps to c3. Knight b5, knight d3, and suddenly it turns out that, Alireza is putting a lot of pressure. So this pawn is under attack. If this pawn falls, I mean, there will be even more threats to white's pieces, because, I mean, they're not very good placed, while white will be just, while black will just, eventually, if bishop comes to b5, I mean, it would be a problem for white. Queen b1, knight goes to b4, rook c1, and now queen b8. Knight d4, rook c8, knight f1 is a blunder, because here, after rook c1, queen c1, knight d4, bishop d4, knight d3, there is knight e1 threat. This is under attack. Very tough position to play. I mean, queen c2 is not possible, queen d2 you take, queen b3. I mean, queen b3 is possible, but then knight f4 comes, so a lot of pawns are under attack. So knight takes, and now bishop b5. And once again, rook c1, queen c1, knight d3 was possible, because again, just too many pawns. Bishop b5, takes, knight goes to e3, and suddenly the position is not so bad. Knight goes to d3, f5, bishop c5, queen a1, bishop b4, bishop g4, knight f4 check, bishop goes to d7, threatening to take on f5, and now f-file is also open, potentially checkmate in attacks. Queen f1, knight c5, and guess what, knight comes to e4. And now knight g5 takes the pawn, h6, g takes h6, queen f6, bishop f8 protecting the pawn, and there's just not a lot of play for white. I mean, all pieces are blocked. Knight goes to d5. I mean, that was a decisive blunder because, okay, I mean, e takes d6 was the idea, but even e6 doesn't work because simple bishop e6 solves all black's problems. Alireza played bishop c6 instead because now he wants to take on d5 just to make sure Maxime doesn't have any counterplay, and after bishop f3, bishop d5, bishop d5 e6, queen e6, Maxime lost the game, and guess what? That was the only decisive result in that match, and Alireza helped his team win the match. It was a close match, all draws, only this game ended decisively, and Alireza 5 out of 5. You know, at this point, you know, I might believe the team might be able to win all the games in this event. I mean, that is just mind-blowing. Of course, that probably won't happen. Eventually, someone will be able to take half a point, even full point from him, but for now, he's just... Performance rating, by the way, guys, 35-26, which is unbelievable. And we move on to the very interesting matchup between Alaskan Knights, who haven't won a single match, against the team led by Fabiano Caruana. And we will take a look at 3 games played in this match. So let's start by taking a look at this game first. So Gukesh, who had a lot of struggles throughout this tournament, plays against Fabiano Caruana, who is not on a very good streak either. Fabi lost against Alireza, Fabi lost against Maxime, made a draw against Hikaru, and won against Fischer. So e5, knight f3, knight c6, Italian game. Bishop e7, knight bd2, pawn goes to a4, castle. I mean, Italian opening, nothing, you know, nothing crazy. Bishop c4 takes h6, bishop goes to d2, rook e8, and now b4. Finally, white are trying to take up some space. b5, pin goes to c2, and now pawn goes to d4. So white took a little bit more space than black. b6, some weak squares. Rook d1, queen c8, bishop c1, g6, bishop goes back to b2, bishop g7, and now takes bishop a b. Not letting knight go to c5 because after, let's say, takes, I mean, obviously the pawn on e5 is hidden, but also that the pawn structure would be just terrible. Takes, knight goes to e3. Plans potentially include knight d5, maybe h4, h5 ideas. Knight d5 takes, and now c4, making sure the knight is stable on d5. This position is, I mean, it's equal. The Italians are generally kind of boring to play, to face. So, I mean, at least to me, on all 4 top champs, I think it's still very, very explored, but they kind of find new ideas every time. So rook goes to e6, king to b2, rook e8, h3, knight h7. You might ask, why not take on c4? So the thing is, rook c1 and rook c7 is probably what Fabi was... Oh, rook c1 and knight c7 fork. So that's what probably Fabi was afraid of. Knight goes to h7, rook b1 trying to attack, knight c5, queen a1, and potentially putting pressure here, knight d7, rook goes to b5, cementing a beautiful square for the rook, and the rook comes to b1 as well. Knight f6, knight d2, rook b8, f4, and now the queen on a1 finally gets some chop, because f4 is an extremely annoying move. You potentially want to take and exploit the pins. King h7, rook f1, takes, and now also a lot of pressure on f-file. Knight f3, knight h5, knight d4 fork, queen goes to d6, knight e6, queen e6, and now rook g4, knight e5, knight c7, attacking the queen. Queen goes back, but I think Fabi didn't have enough time to make a move because queen e7 and the game was finished. But basically, queen e5 is enough to win the game. I think he resigned after queen e7. I mean, there's just no point in playing further. White are just up rook. So the second game, and this one is you know, the quickest game of this match. Knight c3, bishop g5. Anish is playing against Arjun, who also struggles a lot in this event. He made 3 draws in the first 3 rounds, and then he lost to Wesley So, and his team hasn't won a single match yet, once again, but Gukesh made sure, you know, they took a lead, so it's already 3-0. So king c2, knight d7, and now Arjun goes for very aggressive g4, and this kind of demonstrates you, like, sometimes, let's say, for me to play move g4 against someone stronger than myself would be just insanely, tough decision, but for him, probably, I mean, again, it's rapid, I don't think he might have played it in, other board chess game as well, but you kind of have to play aggressive even against stronger opponents, just because, I mean, we're all humans after all. There will be mistakes, so, I mean, even if it gives black a little edge, I mean, they will not play perfect, and you will find your chances. So knight goes to g4, bishop g3, d takes e4, rook g1, g file is open. Long castle, knight d5 is a blunder. So bishop takes c4, b5, knight d5 takes, bishop d3, and guess what? c-file is open, bishop a6, rook c8 to the threat, so king goes to b1, rook c8, queen e2. But guess what? King on b1 is actually extremely safe, while the king on h8, I cannot say the same thing. Bishop f4, and now you have different sort of threats, including rook g7 on the next move. So queen goes to e8, queen f3, bishop h6 finally happens on the board. You can actually even prepare queen h3, but I think what you kind of have to worry about is that bishop f8, and black are just trying to defend with all means possible. But bishop h6, g takes h6, queen f4, and there is no good way to protect the pawn on h6. Rook g5 takes, queen g5. Knight goes to h7, queen h5, and Anish resigned. Because guess what? f5, there is simple knight f7, king g8, queen g6, king f8. I don't know, you can play queen h6, king f7, queen h7, and then just slide the rook to g1, and you can simply resign. If queen f7 will be followed, king h8, king g8, king g8, checkmate. So, I mean, there's no real point in playing. And Arjun, and it's 6-0 lead for Team Alaskan Knights. And the third game was played between Leinier Dominguez and Praggnanandhaa. So e4 c6, d4 d5, got a gun. Once again, I think we already saw this advanced variation played in this event. And I think in my recaps you should be able to find it, because I'm not sure if Leinier was playing with, I think he was playing against Vachier, maybe with whites, and Vachier ended up winning. I'm not that sure. So c5, bishop goes to f3, king b6, knight c3, and now c4. Rook b1, queen goes back to d8. The plan for black is potentially try and push pawns on the queen side. Bishop b4, bishop g5, queen d7, knight h4, and the idea is of course to take. Oh, I think no, I know where we saw that. So way E was playing against Vincent. Yes, exactly, because I kind of recognized the structure. The knight was on h6, bishop was on a7, f4, g4 was played. Yeah, now I remember. Knight c6, pawn goes to b3, takes. You might wonder why not, let's say something like, let's say knight d4. I mean, could be possible, but b takes c4, and now this bishop is under attack. This is under attack, so could be played, but decided to play, kind of safer. Takes, bishop b2, c3, f4, bishop a3, rook b8. So the thing about this position is that bishops are extremely active. So king goes to d2, knight f5, pawn goes to g4, knight e7, bishop goes to d6, taking the open b file, bishop c5, king g2, king c2, bishop d6, takes, bishop d1, queen c8, takes, and now we have the following position: two bishops versus two knights. I mean, for me, just because the knights don't really have good squares, and it's really tough to, let's say, if knight was somewhere in e4, I would have said it's probably equal, even some chances for black. But this position is different because knight on e7, knight on c6, there are not a lot of squares of entrance for black pieces at all. I mean, they don't have anything. The chances potentially to try to take this bishop, but again, bishop has a lot of pawns to protect it, so it's tough to play. So f5, knight c8, bishop c5. As I said, I mean, his plan is of course to take the bishop, and then it's kind of good. Queen b5, king b1, and we're transposing to two bishops versus two knights endgame. So king g3, but once again, I'll tell you, so it's very tough to play here with black just because the knights don't have any squares to go to. Look at this. I mean, the position is just simply lost. Bishop a4. So now the thing is, if knight a5, bishop g7, the knight is trapped. and there's just, I mean, resignation. Knight e7, king g5, and now bishop c6, king g6 plans, let's say a6, and then takes on c6, then take on g6. Position collapses. King f7, a6, knight b8, bishop b5 to make sure the pawn is protected. Knight c6, bishop d6, takes, king g8, bishop c5, and slowly but surely he was converted. And after bishop e7, so the thing is, if king e7 was to be played, king g6, knight a6, and you don't really care about anything. Knight e7, f5. This pawn is not going anywhere, and white simply wins the game. And this is the results. These are the results. Grandmasters lost to Alireza's Triveni Continental Kings. The only win for Alireza, and the score with 4 points difference because Alireza got 4 points. American Gambits ended up losing a close match against Ganges Grandmaster. So white won and Vachier won. I'm not sure why I couldn't watch that game, because you might see, I mean, there's nothing. So, and then we had the Alaskan Knights, who finally managed to win the match, and they beat the Pipers. So it's getting interesting. We finally have them. They're still lost, but at least in the second leg they might try to kind of win more matches, because again, they have great players, and they still fight for the playoff spot for the semifinals and finals. So let's see. I'm not sure if they play semifinals or they play finals immediately, depending on how they finish, but they still have chances to get the second spot if they play well enough. But again, it's like 6 points difference right now, and you gotta play extremely well to get that. So hope you enjoyed. Let me know any questions you might have, and if you follow the event, make sure to like the video and click on the subscribe button, and I'll see you tomorrow after day number 6. I mean, it's only getting started, and it's only, you know, starts to get fun. Okay, see you soon. Bye bye.